Hey, it's Russell here from Adelaide Physio and Pilates. I'm not dressed in a shirt today. I'm feeling a bit under the weather, not 100%. It's not COVID apparently, but there's something going on. And there are a few things that made me think it might be a good topic to talk about is the immune system and how it fits in, how it fits into pain, how it fits into the nervous system. Because these days, the correct term, which will be, it's predicted to be adopted in time, is the neuroimmune system rather than the nervous system and the immune system. And that's because they're really tightly linked together. They work together. And I've, just as a bit of a sign, I'm not a sharp at the moment. That's one thing that I'm aware of. And I've actually written notes today because normally I just talk off the cuff, but I'm just that little bit foggier, which is a fairly typical immune system effect. When you're crook, you don't think quite as sharply as what you normally do. And the other thing is I'm noticeably more sensitive. There are things that I'm feeling and I'm noticing that I don't normally notice in my body. And that's also a fairly common phenomenon when you're crook. We all know that if you've got the flu, a lot of people talk about it with COVID too, that they just achy, they hurt all over, their skin's sensitive to touch. That level of sensitivity is just quite different. And so the answer to that is partly in the immune system, and that's why I wanted to talk about that a little bit. It's not something that has traditionally been thought of in terms of pain, but it turns out that because people joining the dots and realizing that, oh, gee, when you got the flu, things hurt, you ate, they started exploring this link between the pain production system and the immune system around about 2000-ish. Linda Watkins, I think, was the name of one of the primary researchers that was looking into this. And it's led to some really interesting discoveries. And the realization that there's a really big interplay between the two. And I must admit, I found it a little bit hard to get my head around the idea of the neuroimmune system to start with, because they're taught so very separately and not really being able to see how one can influence the other. But I wanted to share with you one of the things that really helped to show me the way that these two things are linked, and perhaps show how this could relate to someone that has pain as well. And not just someone that has pain, how to affect someone's performance, how to affect someone's thinking, all of those different things. So I'm going to draw. So I hope you can see this okay. This is how it used to be thought of a synapse. So one nerve, the presynaptic neuron, meets the postsynaptic neuron. So whether that's in your spinal cord, might be in your dorsal horn, whatever, and the presynaptic neuron releases neurotransmitter into the space if there's enough of it, if there's enough of a reason to, and it'll attach onto receptors on the membrane. If there's enough of those that happen, if there are enough neurotransmitter opening enough channels on the other side, then whatever that message is will get continued along. So it used to be thought of, or I certainly used to think of it, and it was taught this way too, that it was just a simple A to B kind of relationship between the two. And then, I can't remember exactly when, but I'm thinking about 10 years ago for me, I suppose, there was talk of, and this was primarily down to David Butler and listening to what he says, and he introduced this idea of the tripartite synapse, where there's another cell that encloses that synapse, and that's an immune cell. And so that immune cell has got the ability to influence what happens at that pre and postsynaptic neuron level. And if you consider that's happening everywhere in the body, and there are these links between connections. I mean, it's vast. It's really amazing. This intertwining is huge. It's hard to really get your head around the volume, and I probably should have organised some figures just to blind you with some amazing figures about how many cells there are in the volume. But it's really, really important, this connection between the two. And if you think about it, if you think about when you're feeling crook, when you've got an immune system that is altered, your thinking isn't as good. Now, it makes me think there must be some kind of reason. There must be some kind of survival reason for your thinking not to be quite as good. And I wonder whether it's something to do with, back, easy go, if we're talking about evolution, whether it was advantageous for, if you were the leader of the tribe, for example, the pack, and you were sick, maybe it made sense for you not to be quite as sharp, so that someone else would come in and take over the leadership role, so you didn't make any silly decisions. But you know how easy it is to make silly decisions when you're feeling sick, when your thinking isn't quite, you're not quite on song. So, and it's a normal part. It's a normal part of the sickness response for your thinking not to be quite as good. And you see that with persistent pain as well. People that have persistent pain, they will say their thinking isn't as focused. They're cloudy. They don't have the same ability to concentrate. They're a little bit cloudy in their thinking, and we know that and that's been shown experimentally as well, to have problems with thinking and performing spatial tasks, like remembering how they got to a certain place. And interestingly enough, that it's also been found, and this is experiments on rats or mice, because you can't really do the same thing on humans, but mice that have less T cells and mice that have less interleukin-4 cells are not as smart, can't perform tasks as well. So you can just start to see there's that relationship there between the immune system and thinking and cleverness as well. The other thing, I think, with people with persistent pain, one of the reasons that this is how I think of it, at least, that their thinking might be not quite as sharp, is also because you've got limited resources, right? You don't have unlimited resources in your body. And when you think of pain being such a high priority thing, it's part of your protection, survival. It's kind of, it really is high up the tree of priorities in the body. And if pain is a thing and it continues going on and on, that's going to take up quite a bit of your resources. You're going to expend quite a lot of energy in different ways attending to that pain, and less, it's going to be less effective with other parts of your physiology, which includes thinking as well. So I think there's a few lessons there. The immune system and the nervous system are very closely intertwined, meshed. They work together. They're not two separate things. And there are big implications for people with persistent pain on, we talk a lot about the nervous system and how that changes and how that bits get upregulated and downregulated. But the immune system too is involved in that and has ways of making you more sensitive. And if you think about it, it makes sense too, doesn't it? The immune system's there to protect you as well. And it's a great way to protect you by making you more sensitive, if that's what your body has done, is going to be the best way of looking after you. If producing pain is something that's going to help to protect you, your immune system can tweak that and make you more sensitive. So anything you can do to help your immune system function, arguably, is going to be beneficial for helping with persistent pain as well. It's not the whole answer, but it's certainly something that can be looked at and something that can be optimized, and you can do things with the immune system in mind, whether that's through diet, through exercise, through understanding and knowledge, which is going to reduce the threat, which in turn is going to reduce the immune response. There are different ways that you can help that. And so once again, it just shows how when you're thinking about pain, when you're thinking about persistent pain, it's not a two-dimensional problem. There's many dimensions to it, which means there are many avenues that you can follow as well in trying to help it out, which is probably the good news, really. There are different ways that you can help. I hope that makes sense. If you've got any comments, if there's anything you'd like to add or ask, or if you want to tell me that I'm completely wrong, that's okay. Just put it in the comments below, and it'd be good to have a chat about it.